Good morning, my friends. Glory to Jesus Christ. Immediately preceding this passage that we read today in the Gospel of Matthew, it ends with a question right before this passage we read today. That question is, who can this be that even the winds and the sea obey him? And as if in answer, we get this episode today with the Gergesene demoniacs. Christ had been following, the multitudes had been following him, and he had been healing their diseases. All kinds of leprosy, all kinds of sickness, any disease, the people came and he healed them, showing that he had this divine power over every kind of disease. After that, he got into a boat, he fell asleep, his disciples were with him. A great storm arose, and when they woke him up, he calmed the sea with just a word, which led them to ask, who can this be that even the winds and the sea obey him? And then we get the answer in this passage today. He comes to this place, and hurtling out from the tombs come two men, unnaturally fierce. The demons in them accost Christ. They were tormented by his presence. But even they have to ask permission to enter into the swine. They had no power in themselves to do anything, only what God allows. Because see what happens right after, when God permits them, when they are sort of let loose, so to speak, when there are no longer human souls in question. What do the swine do? But they immediately hurl themselves down the mountain and drown themselves in the sea. This did not happen when they were in the men, because they were not allowed to do so. There is no power, no will, no force, no principality or anything that can do anything apart from God's plan, from God's power and allowing. St. Theophylact says, demons consider it torment to be prevented from harming men. They had done all that they were allowed to do to torment these men, separating them from their families, separating them from other people, making them to go live in a place where they were constantly reminded of the separation that we have between God. You consider also the story of Job, where Satan pleaded with God to be able to torment Job. He was only allowed to because God allowed him to do it. Job had been given many blessings because of his faithfulness to God, and Satan thought, if I can take away these things, maybe I can induce him to turn his back on God and curse him instead, to share some of the torment that I share in my rebellion against God. But God did not allow Satan to do whatever he wanted. He first only allowed Satan to touch Job's sort of things outside of his own body, his wealth, his possessions, his family. And then after further diabolical pleading, Satan was allowed to touch Job's body, but not to touch his life. God had something greater in plan for Job. And you can imagine what torment Satan was experiencing by seeing his plans fail and being frustrated. Because Job did not turn around, did not curse God, despite living in such excruciating pain and loss and sorrow. Now, what did these two men from today's story do such that they were not only affected by demons, but actually inhabited by them? Job was affected only on his externals, so to speak, things outside of himself. But these two men actually had wickedness living inside them. St. Theophylact, again, he says that where there is swinish life, it is not Christ who dwells there, but demons. The association of these two men with the herd of swine nearby is clear. Where there is swinish life, it is not Christ who dwells there, but demons. Consider the story of the prodigal son, where prodigal living led to pigsty living. There is no power, no force, no will, no self-determination, no self-discipline, no set of goals you can have for yourself that can give you what Christ gives us in Him, which is freedom from sin and new life in the only true source of life. Not even the law. St. Paul talks about the law of righteousness today. The law was given by God. The law was good. It was perfect. There's a whole very, very long psalm, Psalm 118, that goes on and on about how wonderful the law is. And all of that is true. But it was not the end. And by the end, I mean it was not the fulfillment. It was not the purpose. It was not the goal. It was not the telos, if you want to use a Greek term, that God had in store for us. God had something greater planned for us. The end that God had in mind for us, was Christ. St. Paul teaches us in his epistle to the Romans today, he desires for all of his countrymen to be saved. And of course we know that God desires for all men to be saved. But trying to establish one's own righteousness does not work. Maybe these two men tried at some point to halt their further descent into darkness. Maybe they decided that the swinish life that they were experiencing far away from everybody was not worth it, and they tried to stop. But in this story, who is it that shows up and sets them free? It is Christ himself. He is the one who has power over even the demons. As St. Paul says today, for Christ is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone who believes. This end of the law here is not the cessation of the law, but rather the fulfillment, the goal, the purpose, the filling it up, the telos of the law. St. Paul gives us this contrast. Who will ascend into heaven, that is to bring Christ down? Or who will descend into the abyss, that is to bring Christ up? The intent of that question, which is sort of confusing, the intent of that question is to think of the only possible answer it could be. Christ alone. Christ himself has descended into death, defeated death, and come back from it again. Christ alone has ascended into heaven and made it possible for humanity to have a heavenly life. Who can this be, who even the wind and the seas obey him? He is the one who in the story of Job commands devils and they must obey. He is the one that we confess with our mouth and believe in our heart unto salvation. I was recently at a baptism where one of the candidates for baptism that day was evidently having a hard time following the service, the parts that he was supposed to do during the baptism. A lot of you are probably familiar with this. If you're not, there are various responses that the baptismal candidate has to give and is supposed to say. There is the priest will ask, have you renounced Satan and all his angels and all his works and all his service and all his pride? I have renounced him. That happens 3 times. Have you renounced Satan? I have renounced him. Do you unite yourself to Christ? I do unite myself to Christ. Well, this man, who was perhaps an older gentleman and maybe wasn't feeling that well that day, he was barely audible at times, or at some times it was hardly even possible to tell if he was giving the responses. So this is what the priest did in spite of that, or in the midst of that difficulty. He got down from the position where he was. He got up close to the man. He responded in a more loud and more direct way to induce that response from him. He bent his neck so that with every part of his being he could hear what the man was saying. And he looked intently at his mouth to see if his lips were moving, to see if he was ready to unite himself to the faith that he was going to be professing. He was ready to die with Christ into the water and rise again a new man. He was He was baptized, the service continued, and it was a glorious thing. But you see what the priest modeled, how he modeled Christ for us there. Yes, we must leave the swinish life, but it is Christ himself who first made that possible and helps us along every step of that way. Unfortunately, the last thing we hear in the gospel today is that the people of that region rejected Christ's help. They were perhaps too scared or too concerned or too convicted themselves to want to have Christ around them. And so they begged him to leave from their region. Perhaps this is part of the progression, or rather the digression, of these two men from Gergesenes into demoniacs. My friends, do not reject Christ's help. Help him, invite him in to clean up every pigsty we may still have in our heart. He says that we will never be tempted beyond what we can stand. He rather helps us. He saves us, and he fulfills righteousness in us. Who can this be that even the winds and the sea obey him? Who can this be that even the demons must submit themselves to him? Who can this be but the word, the wisdom, and the power of God? He invites us to partake in his body and blood. May we invite him to descend to the deepest and darkest parts of our heart, to be there with us. My friends, Christ is in our midst. He is in our body.
Let us